Hey everybody, it's Evan in Arcade, and oh my wad, it's a morning show. Once again, I'm joined by my co-host, Jason Patrick. Good morning, Jason, and good morning to everybody who's watching us live. How's it going, Jason?
Good morning, bud. How you doing?
Pretty good. I had a pretty good week. I feel like every time now that I know we're doing this, it's like I want to have a better week because I want to have better shit to talk about.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I feel like it's been pretty good. You know, the weather's getting better.
It's getting better here. It's a lovely weekend.
Yeah. I mean, people are getting
like
out.
70 yesterday. So
cool. Yeah, and I've seen people have seen my videos too. Hold on, there's like a plane passing right now. Like my parents were like hanging out outside. I posted a video on my Instagram saying like they're just like, oh, we're so sad you guys can't be here, and it's the quarantine's keeping us down. And I was like, I called them up after that, and I was just like, you know, you guys do that anyway. Like it's your lifestyle hasn't changed either. You know, you guys just chill at home anyways, cooking, cookouts and drink, and sometimes you have neighbors and stuff. But it's still been pretty the same. It's kind of like for me as well. So
what's brew? What you drinking today?
What's brew? I feel like now ever since last time you said what's brew, bro, it just kind of goes. Hey, I'm trying this, and for those guys who you could see, it is. This is I'm going to also point it at the camera here. It's called the Ox LA. It is a Japanese flash cold brew. And I just learned about this stuff.
Okay.
Have you ever heard of Japanese flash cold brew?
No, I haven't heard of that.
The flash cold brew is developed is a Japanese method of. So cold brew, like because you've been doing it recently, you kind of just dump a bunch of coffee grounds in water, steep water, and just leave it overnight. And apparently in the coffee community, everyone's like, that's shit. That's like the shittiest way. Like cold brew just sucks. And I was like, I don't know anything about this.
Yeah.
Japanese cold brew, on the other hand, is you brew it like with hot water onto the coffee straight on top of ice. Like immediately, like that's the flash. Like as soon as it heats up, it goes right onto the ice. Supposedly locks in the flavor stuff. This is it's just a regular coffee. It's single origin, which is just obviously just means it comes from one place, but it's actually really good. I don't really. Growing up, I just used to dump a lot of milk and sugar in my coffee because I didn't want it to taste like coffee. And now that I know what coffee is supposed to taste like, this is actually really good. What about you?
So I got some today or this week from Brew, which is a place in Chicago here. Like it's by my house, so that's why it was more convenience than anything. But I'm drinking the Chicago House Blend, which I really like the sticker and the idea.
I don't know why.
I guess what happened?
Label. I really like the label.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So, I've been drinking this Brew's, a place in Chicago. They have 2 locations in Pilsen and then one in Avondale, which is where I'm by. If you're in Chicago, the Pilsen location, I guess, is currently closed right now because of the quarantine, but you can still go to the Avondale one. So I picked it up there. I don't think they brew in-house necessarily. Like when I was looking them up, it said, let's see here.
You mean roast?
Yeah, I don't think they roast in-house because it says that the coffee is provided by Counterculture Coffee. So that's like a brewing company out of North Carolina, Durham, North Carolina. So
let me go back because I did not say at all where my coffee was from.
Oh, no.
Which I apologize. And it's funny because you mentioned Counterculture, and this is exactly the same kind of coffee that this cafe uses. So like I said, this is from a place called the Ox LA. And it's a cafe that just opened up last year in November in the Oxford Hotel here in Los Angeles. Unfortunately, because of the whole, the quarantine stuff happening, it sucks, right? You just open up a business and then it's like, we can't do anything about it. So they had like this overstock of things. And they're just like, you know what? The owner's like, I can make deliveries. Because I want to use this stuff. And so that's why I had posted, it's just basically like these jugs that he's kind of going around delivering. And I got this, and I also got a tea, but that's the Ox LA. So if you guys are, whoever's in LA, check them out. They do house calls. Basically, they drop off stuff. And hopefully when all this is over, you'll be able to go back inside that cafe.
Yeah. And like today, I did cold brew last week, but I actually bought a pour over yesterday to do a drip coffee thing. I don't think I did it right because you're supposed to pour it in the grounds. I mean, I did the method where you soak them. Soak it, do it in the circular motion.
Yeah.
But it was like pouring. It wasn't like a drip, really. And I think you're supposed to drip it. So only put so much so that it starts dripping, not pouring. And It tastes
Oh yeah,
fine.
you have to little bit, right? Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know. One tip I guess from that what I learned is for a lot of that stuff is you're supposed to soak the filter first
Hmm.
because you want to get the paper taste out of it. This is even with like
Yeah.
regular coffee filters. You want to just kind of wet it, and then it takes the. My palate hasn't been like evolved that much to taste the
Yeah, me
difference.
and
Being
mine
like
either.
this is this tastes like paper, but it's pretty cool. Like we're learning stuff. That's the whole point of the quarantine is we're just learning more
Yeah,
things.
I didn't soak the filter. There's what's it called? I was watching a video the other day, binging with Babish, this guy who like
Hmm.
records himself making stuff. So he had a he had a lady on there who was like a coffee master showing him how to do different style of things. So, but that was one of them, soaking the filter. So
Oh, right on.
next
So
time.
what? Now you know what to do. So
Hmm.
what's new with you? What happened? Anything cool happened over this week? I
So
really
this
dig your
week,
shirt, by the way. Sorry, I just saw your shirt. It's really
yeah.
cool.
So speaking of that, I think I've abandoned the robe.
One recording and he's already. We're
I'm
supposed to
like,
be
I
wearing
don't.
robes on this. I haven't
Yeah.
gotten one yet. It's my fault that I haven't searched one out. It's awesome that Jason went out and got one, but I'm
Hmm.
gonna get one, and we're
I
gonna
mean, I
be in
put it on
robes.
and I'm like, I look cooler without it. So I'm like, I look like a bum. I guess that's the entire point of
That's the
wearing the
idea. I
robe
mean,
is to look
it's
like a
yeah,
bum. But
gotta look like the dude.
yeah. So yeah, I mean, this week we started cabinet work on our kitchen. So we got new cabinets because the ones we had were just ugly and old. Like we painted it the week before the kitchen and now we're putting those in. So it's like I'm not really helping much there. My dad knows about that stuff. I help him like lift the stuff and like put it on the wall.
Hold shit up, yeah.
So it's like the kitchen has been a mess like all week and it's still not done. So I haven't been able to like bake my cookies or
That's
do
what I was
anything.
curious about when you had
Uh-huh.
mentioned like we're not done with the kitchen. I was like, what's going on? Like, what are they doing? Like, did it blow up? Did the oven blow up? Well, I don't know.
No, so we
Did he
put the
fuck it
cat.
up so bad when he was making pizza that the kitchen's dead?
Well, it was a pain in the ass to get the thing in there because like the corner piece where the sink goes, it was too big
Yeah.
to fit through the door, so we had to like take it apart. We got that in, but then after the cabinets were up, the drywall looked weird and like it wasn't. The drywall was like protruding out enough where like you can't really fully close the cabinet doors.
Oh wow.
So
Yeah.
my my dad basically is doing redoing the drywall above the cabinets, and I think it's mostly done now. He just has to paint it, or I think smooth it out and then paint it.
Right. How? I
So the
mean,
kitchen's been a mess. What
so
happened?
are you guys still cooking or what? Like, you guys not cooking there, making
Not
dinners and stuff?
really. I mean, a little bit. We ordered out a few times this week. We got some Olive Garden the other day, and what else? Yeah, we got Olive Garden, and so we've been figuring it out. We bought like TV dinners one day, so I think I talked about that on one episode where I made one of those, or
Oh
maybe it
yeah,
was
yeah.
just conversation. The Frontera Rick Bayless
Mm. Are
coffee,
they
not
good? Are they
coffee,
good?
coffee, yeah, TV dinners. It
Yeah.
was just a bowl, like a fajitas
Did it
bowl. It was really
did
good.
it taste good? Yeah.
It was really good, yeah. And I heated up some tortillas and just kind of made tacos out of it. So it was that. Yesterday, I finally got to see my daughter. Me and my parents drove up there. So,
Cool.
like, for those of you who don't know, like, uh, the baby mama, lives kind of far. I'm not really able to hang out with my daughter. And when I go over there, I can't really hold her or anything. But
Yeah.
we went up there yesterday and hung out with her. And that was really nice. It was a beautiful day. So it was like the
Cool.
perfect day to go.
Mm.
So we did that. But what I didn't tell you, on the way home, uh, we were just on the way home, went to Target, we went to Target on the way home, but I was chewing gum in the car, and my right cheek got swollen. Like I think I basically have a swollen lymph node right now, and I'm kind of
Oh, okay.
concerned about it.
Yeah, yeah.
So this happened yesterday, and I was like freaking out about it. I asked my sister-in-law because she works at a hospital. So she just said like give it 2 weeks, and if it doesn't go away, then go to the doctor. So it
Hmm.
has gone down since yesterday. Like it doesn't feel how it felt. So I'm hoping it's just people. It happens to people.
Yeah,
Could be
yeah,
like sinuses or like allergies. I don't have that.
yeah.
I understand you could form that later in life, and then you have allergies forever. But
Yep.
so hopefully it's nothing
It could
serious. I
it
don't
could
have
just be like
insurance, so
a
I got to figure that out.
minor tonsillitis. I mean,
Yeah.
I've in my later years as an old man, I've had to deal with a lot of issues with that. I mean, I got them removed 2 years ago. That was part of the surgery that I had that I mentioned on a previous podcast. And the thing is that when you get older, they're supposed to get smaller, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, just in general. But and the reason they get swollen is because they're catching like all kinds of like, you know, bacteria and debris and whatever. Like that's the point that they're there. That's why kind of like they say don't get them removed because they're kind of useful.
Okay.
But for me, they would get so bad, both of them, where I would just not be able to like swallow. You know, I would freak out. I used to have like major anxiety, panic attacks. Like, I could get swallowed, you know? And then, but then I learned like, if it's really bad, I've only ever had like where one was really massively swollen. You know, if it was both of them, then I would probably have issues breathing and swallowing.
Okay.
But just chewing on some ice would help bring the swelling down, and then it'd be okay. But since I got them moved, I don't get as sick as often. So I think my body just processes the bacteria and kills it. Even though this is like, these are the lymph nodes are supposed to be a catch-all for bacteria. I'm so much better without them. So
yeah, it's never happened to me. So it was just kind of weird how sudden it was that it just happened.
Yeah.
It just swelled up. And it wasn't like a big bulge, but like I could just feel it. My mouth didn't feel right. So hopefully it goes away on its own. What happened?
Time and age right now, we're all freaking out, right? Any little thing. Like I wake up with like a sore throat or like a nose thing, and I'm like, oh my God, I got it. I got it, you know?
And plus when that happens, you know, you do the thing that you're not supposed to do. You go online and look up what might be wrong with you. It's like, you might have cancer. It's a possibility. So, you know, so I'm trying not to freak out. And it's like I said, it's lowered significantly today. I don't even notice it now. So hopefully it's just something weird that happened that is going to be gone. Yeah. But that's about it. Like, how was your week?
So I have a pretty good small. I mean, it's a decent list. It's of fun things, nothing like major, right? Like sometimes because we don't do anything, the little things aren't the most exciting. So I got a bike basket for my dog, for my bike, obviously bike basket to ride in finally. And it was one of those things where like I just saw it on Amazon or somewhere, and I said, this looks really cool. That would be a lot of fun. But once I finally got it, I was like, oh my God, I'm actually gonna have to use this. Not only that, it's actually like kind of heavy, you know, it's hefty.
Yeah.
And then with the dog in it, he's pretty light, but he's like under 10 pounds. But together, it just makes steering a lot more. It's harder, obviously.
Yeah.
Because, you know, the gravity and the shifting of the weight. And so, but we decided to go for a ride and to test it out. Because I said, we have to do this because if we're not going to use it, then why did I buy this? And it's actually a gift from my mom. So I was like, we have to use it. We went out for a ride. It was pretty fun. A couple of times where I almost like lost control. And there was this one moment where somebody, and I was supposed to save this one for the last one to go into Cranky Corner. So we'll get back into it. But the other thing is too, what else have I got on here? Like I've been doing a lot of takeout, which I really keep telling myself to cut back on just because I don't have the money to be spending on that. The same thing. I've been buying a ton of patches again for my jackets. The other thing is though, you had showed me this app called Tavor.
Yeah. Tavor. I don't know.
Yeah. It's a beer app that we both found out about. We just downloaded it immediately. That they kind of just give you, they feature beers, right, that are like really hot right now. And it's like a kind of like a subscription thing where they just say like, this is the awesome beer. They were rated number 1 or number 2 in the country for this type of beer. And we only have a couple of selection of it. And then you decide if you want to buy it. Like you said, like, yes, give me a bottle or give me a couple of cans. And so you just kind of add it. And I think at first we thought we would be able to get certain things. Like I would be able to order stuff from like Three Floyds, which is a very popular brewery over there in the Midwest because it's, you know, they don't distribute out here. Five Rabbits, this is also another Chicago brewery that I wish I could get out here. Can't do that. So we thought we can get stuff like that from there, but it's just dependent on what they decide to feature. Yeah. And I think prior to this, we had talked about it because I've been drinking some beers on our podcast, or I always say podcast. It's our episodes. Yeah, you know, we're not making multiple podcasts. It's different episodes.
I'm always weird about like calling it like a show or a podcast or an episode. I guess it's a catch-all. Like they all work, but
yeah, exactly. But I definitely don't want to use podcasts. Either way, I've been drinking beers, and I know you had talked about because you're in the middle of sobriety right now, and it's kind of been not weighing on me. Like it's like I don't want to drink on camera because I don't want to get this guy. Not that I know you're like, oh my God, I'm jonesing for a drink.
And that's not how it is. Like yesterday, I was having dinner in the backyard. Like my sister cooked some steaks, and there was like a bottle of wine. She's like, "Do you want me to move this away from you?" It's like, I don't look at something and like, oh, I gotta fucking have it, you know?
I know, and I used to feel like
Yeah.
that when my brother was around too. But anyway, regardless of that, I
Mhm.
know like I'm always saying beer is not great. Like I lost a lot of weight from like just stop drinking in general. Beer is
Uh-huh.
like one of the worst things to drink because of obviously all the wheat, all the gluten, stuff like that. So I decided like I can't do this because I don't want to gain weight anymore. And then that app comes along and
You're
I,
welcome.
I and I'm like, what am I doing? No, I'm like, this is, I don't need to be drinking. I mean, they all look interesting. And now I'm just like, well, now that I'm doing it, I'm just going to use it as a reason or excuse to
Yeah.
drink for the podcast. So I feel like, and we talked about this, What's Brew, which is our catch-all like name for what we're drinking in the mornings, brewing like coffee. Like, hey, well, it fits also beer. So if we ever get to that point where we're just like, what do what's brewed now while we're recording during the evening? Because that's when we record our regular episodes. We
Hmm.
could also feature some of the beers that we have on there.
Yeah.
And then I talked about Untapped, which is like kind of like I told you about that one too, where just like you kind of check in and say you've tried all these different beers. There's like a huge community of beer aficionados. Again, I don't know why I'm getting into that. Just it. And that's I got a new job finally. I've had it for a couple of weeks now, so it's going pretty smooth. So that's luckily that's what's affording me to do all these things recently. Everyone's
Yeah.
like, you haven't have a job. Why are you spending all this money? I do now. Not smart to spend money regardless, but that's been what's new with me. Um, but I do want to go back to the Kirby driving because my dog's name is Kirby.
Mhm.
Riding our bikes, and I want to segue into Cranky Corner, the shit that pisses us off. Right into the one that pissed me off while I was riding with my dog. Some asshole lady was like right behind us. There's plenty of room on the streets that I ride, and I'm with the dog. It's a
Mhm.
Sunday evening, it's not busy out here. It's quarantine. There's like nobody out.
Yeah.
There's like riding on my ass, beeping at me, and I'm like, what the fuck? And I'm assuming like she wants to turn, to the street to the right,
Yeah.
and oh, she doesn't. She's just like right here behind me, beeping at me, and I turn around like, what the fuck? Like, go around. You have plenty of space to go around me, and then she's on her fucking phone, and it's like, and I got so mad. I'm like, I will fucking kick your car. Like I've never been like, I've just recently got really into cycling or biking, especially on the streets. I used to be very afraid of riding in the streets.
Mhm.
Got my helmet and everything like that. But even worse because now it's like, well, I have the dog. I don't want nothing to happen. I can't get off the bike and
Yeah.
run at somebody. And even if I try to stand the bike on the street, it'll fall over because it's so heavy.
Uh-huh.
So that really pissed me off. And I really got to feel what it feels like to be a cyclist in the city. Like they have to deal with this kind of shit all the time, right? People, I've heard stories of people getting hit, like friends of mine. I've seen people get hit. I remember when my parents came to visit, they were like, "Yeah, we were riding an Uber like in town, and our Uber hit some dude." And I was like, "What?"
Yeah.
And it's crazy. So that pisses me off that that's still a thing. Like it's like, especially now where we're trying to stay home or whatever. Get off the phone at least. What the fuck?
Well,
So
I've like found that like, and this is back when I was like still like after the quarantine went down and like the stay-at-home orders came in place, and I was still delivering out there. Like I was seeing cars do crazy shit. And it's like there's like hardly any cars on the road, which I think is making people drive
that's true.
worse
That's
than
true.
if there was, because like
I
there's
will
no like.
admit,
Go
when I
ahead.
was driving back when I was still using the car,
Yeah.
I was like fucking zooming through the streets. And I was like making these crazy turns and stuff. Like, yeah, it's like Grand Theft Auto, ain't nobody around. But no, that's dangerous. Don't do that. Obviously, you never know who's gonna come out, and especially if
Yeah.
I'm riding my bike on the streets. But yeah, that's my.
Yeah.
I don't
And there's
know.
like, there's so much things like out of your control in regards to that. Like cyclists get a lot of shit. I think a lot of it's deserved because there's a lot of like
Oh,
asshole cyclists who don't follow the rules of the road. But
very
even if
entitled.
you are one of those people who are smart when you're on your bike, you can only control so much because, there's other people on the road and they're going to
Yeah,
do what they're going to do. So it's
right.
definitely dangerous. Like I've almost got killed once or twice. Luckily,
Yeah, 'cause,
not,
I mean,
I
you're
didn't
an
get hit,
avid
but yeah.
biker for the most part. Like
Hmm.
you said you don't drive, so that's like kind of one of your main modes of
Yeah.
transportation.
Well, I got a flat tire the other day, so like I slept over
Yeah.
Christina's house, and like Rudy, my buddy Rudy, who was I think he's watching, he wanted to borrow the bike the next day to go to a job interview, and on the way home, my front tire got flat, so it's like, oh shit.
Oh man,
But
that sucks.
so I gotta fix that. I don't
Put
like
some run
fixing
flats.
tires. Yeah.
Yeah, those are pretty ass.
Yeah, so my cranky corner is Instagram. I've complained about this before. There's just a lot of little nitpicky things. And I don't even think it's nitpicky. So like I've talked about my wannabe photography and like how I, post like sets of photos a few times a week.
Right.
And Instagram just has this thing where like, which I need to learn. We had talked about it. Whenever I take a picture of something, I need to make sure I take it, vertically and horizontally when I take the photo, because whenever you like make a post on Instagram where you select multiple pictures, if there's a mixture of those things, portrait and landscape photos, it doesn't know how to handle it, right? Like you could hit that button where it zooms out of the photo and shows the entire picture. But if you mix the two,
I think it only takes
one of them's going to get cut off. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like whatever's the initial picture, whatever that is, it's going to set it to that. So if it's the initial picture's portrait, it's going to set it. It's going to calibrate it properly for that.
Yeah.
And so that's super annoying because like I'll take these beautiful landscape photos and then I don't post them because most of the time I'm taking portrait photos. So fix that. And even with our like live streams, we just started live streaming last week, and if you don't have a headset on, the audio can only go so low. You can't completely mute the audio, so you're going to get an echo. That's why I have this. And
I'm going to play devil's advocate on this. It makes sense. You're live streaming. There's like, why would you want to mute this? The whole point of you're watching them to listen to them.
Mm-hmm. I guess
unless they're doing something crazy that it's like it's just visual.
Unless we're doing this, where we're doing two different things at once. I guess it's exactly. It's rare what we're doing.
Right.
But
I would say, I mean, because I like I said, I don't really follow a lot of live streams or podcasts. I don't know who does this sort of thing, like has a setup where we're recording I know that people do record podcasts and also do live shows, but the way we're doing it, where we're doing it on Instagram. And I always remember, like, I downloaded these, and I've told you about this a couple times. I've downloaded these apps, sound effects apps, soundboards.
Yeah.
Because I want to have sound effects like and like all this crazy shit for the morning show, but I forget, like, they're on my phone. My phone is right there. I can't do it. So I have to get like another device and download the apps to the other devices because I want to make those sound effects. I want to be like a stupid morning show, like Man Cow in the Morning or something, So that was it, right, for that one?
Yeah, that's it for my cranky corner. Just Instagram.
It is a pain in the ass. It's something that's kind of plagued everybody for a while. Like, it's like, come on, dudes, just fix it. Stop giving me these stupid stickers and these fucking filters. Just do this shit right, Yeah. And that's part of one of my favorite segments. It's called Brostradamus, where I predict what's going to happen in the future. Actually, more like in the near future because of the way things are happening and changing so fast.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes it can be funny. Sometimes they're like just serious. One thing is, I feel like in the future, I'd say by 2021, we're going to go back to being a bunch of fucking dirty scumbags and not give a shit about masks, bumping into each other, grinding into each other. It might not even be 2021. Because do you remember when...
It's already happening, yeah, all these protests.
It is already happening now, but do you remember like when 9/11 happened, obviously? Very horrible time. But because of that, flying became incredibly restrictive, right?
For sure.
Like the TSA rules went up. You couldn't take certain things. You were being screened. Everyone was getting checked out. I would say like by the end of that year, or not, because it happened in September. So maybe by the following year, all that stuff that you thought that was going to happen to you, like, oh, we got to be there 5 hours in advance because everyone's going to be like, no, you just stroll right into the airport. No one gave a shit unless you looked like somebody who they would racially profile to say, like, you got to look at that guy. It looks like that. It went back to normal. Like, nobody cared. You still carry the same shit. And I feel like the same thing's going to happen this time around. No one's going to care about the virus stuff. It's just like, people are already saying that now, right? They're just saying, like, it's just the flu. And it's just going to go back to normal, like, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, people are, people are being ideal about it, thinks that this is going to change people's behaviors, but generally people are kind of shitty. So, yeah, I don't think much is going to change once.
So one thing that I do think that is going to change, which I'm actually looking forward to seeing how this happens, is in restaurants and in bars. Mm-hmm. And this is based off an article that I had read. They were talking about how they're going to have to cut down the capacity that they can allow into these bars, right? Because they don't want to have too many people inside. Mm-hmm. But because of this, these establishments, these places are not going to be able to survive because that's cutting down like the revenue they're making, and people can't even like live off of like 10% less of what that would be of a normal day would be. So a lot of them aren't going to be able to return, or they're just not going to care. You know, like you get sick. Like they'll still be able to clean the place up, and allow people here. It's like it's going to be up to you to make sure that no one's touching you, no one's touching your drink, no one's coughing in your face. Mm-hmm. They're not going to care because they need the money. But I also feel like there's talks about like people, they're going to have like, you know, you have your bouncer out in front, but they're going to have somebody inside kind of just be like, hey, you spread out. Like, you know, like, turn around.
Or like, when you like go to the movies and it's like, oh, silence is golden, don't talk. It's like, it doesn't matter if you put those commercials on the screen that tell you not to do those PSAs or whatnot. Like someone has to be in there to monitor that and enforce those rules. And
then now that we're talking about that, it's like since we're on the same topic of this, predicting it, like it'll be interesting to see how the movie theaters do it. Like when you buy tickets, right, you can pick your seat.
Yeah.
Now I feel like they're going to be blocked, like certain, you know, like.
Well, it's like they already have like the infrastructure in place, right?
Yeah.
Because like a lot of theaters now are reserved seating, like you said. So it's like, it would be weird if you can't like be super selective, but just if they could just like block that out in their computer systems, and so it's spread out in a smart way.
Well, they do that already, right? Like if you try to go and you sit one spot, they'll be like, no, we can't let you sit there because it's going to leave an empty spot right next to you. Like you either take both spots or you can't do that because somebody might not want to sit there, or you know, you might have bigger parties that want to be together. So I feel like it's gonna happen again, but they're gonna be like, now you need to have at least 2 spaces in between.
Yeah.
You know, your person or your party. Yeah. So I'm all for that because I don't want anybody fucking sitting next to me.
Yeah.
And when I watch movies.
Like back to your bar thing that you were saying, like because there are plenty of states in the U.S. like opening up, like doing these like soft openings of like places and trying to, you know, put measures in place. And I forgot what state, but like their thing for the bars was like they cap it at 50% capacity.
Yeah, 50%.
And that seems high. That seems high to me.
Like, you mean like that's still a lot of people to let in?
Yeah. It's like, okay, you could do half of what it was before. It's like that's still people being on top of each other at 50%. I understand why they want to do it, but
I'm so used to going to bars that are small as it is. Yeah. And even at 50%, it's still pretty crowded.
People are on top of each other, yeah.
I like the idea of like if it was 25% and it's like dead, it's like, yeah, the bar's mine, you know, like I get chill.
Or it could just be based. It should be based on capacity, but also the square footage of the area, you know.
Yeah,
so it shouldn't just be like
there's still a lot there
for everywhere.
Yeah. Because especially for restaurants now, it's even more so like a place that you be able to walk into no matter what. They're going to be developing reservation systems for all these other places that never had any, right? Because it's like, we don't want people like just rushing in, like diners or whatever. So, yeah, it's nuts. I mean, it's as much as I like want to like predict crazy shit. It's stuff that's gonna probably happen anyway because this is the world we're living in.
We'll be good seeing stories about it like in a few weeks once the negative effects of doing that finally catch on. So
exactly. Yeah. So now we're getting to the part where we say, what is it that you watched this week? I feel like now we're definitely leaving more room. We still have plenty of time right here, half an hour to talk about. What did you watch?
Yeah, so I'm really excited about this week because my movie watching has tapered off, but I'm investing more in like TV shows. So we talked about BoJack Horseman on, I think we had made a top 5 in like our nostalgia episode about like new things that we want to get to finally. Right. So yeah, I'm already in the 3rd season of that. So I've watched 2 seasons and a few episodes. I really love this show. I knew I would. Like I said before, I was kind of avoiding it because I know it gets pretty heavy, and it does. Love the 1st season. 2nd season I thought had a slow start, but really picked up.
Some really good episodes in the 2nd season.
Yeah, I could recall a few of my favorites. But yeah, it's a really good show. I'm keeping up with it. I like most of the characters. I don't like Todd, which is what I've come to realize. Hate Todd. I kind of don't like Aaron Paul that much. I won't get into that, but even though I do like him in Breaking Bad, But yeah, I mean, he's just a side character, so there's always like a side story going on with him, which I understand why it can't be fully focused on like BoJack. Like you need the dichotomy of that, like
Yeah,
it's a
expand on the people who are around him.
yeah, and it's a half-hour show, so it just can't be all about that heavy stuff. There needs to be a
Yeah,
balance there, but I just don't care for Todd. But I love a lot of the other characters. I love Diane. I love Princess Caroline. Um, and it's insane how much like when I watch the show, I kind of make a game of it where they have so many notable actors on that show doing the voice work.
yeah.
So like I always try to figure out
To
who it
guess
is,
who it is. Yeah, yeah.
which I've done quite a few, and that's always fun.
I always like. There's parts in there where I would freeze frame because they
Uh-huh.
would have names of people, and you know that they're
Yeah.
names of like mixed up like. I can't really think of it, but I remember they were at the Comedy Store, and I think it might have been in the last season,
Mhm.
which is a place out here in LA, which obviously a lot of comics would do stand up. But they had like the wall of people, like the portraits of all the comics that have even been there, and some of
Yeah.
them obviously have regular people faces, like it'll say like Billy Crystal, but
Okay.
or it might be like Billy Caterpillar or something stupid like
Yeah.
that, But it's like, oh, I know who that is, and they're talking about that person and talking about that person. So I love that.
Yeah, it's a great show. It gets really heavy and it's really funny. And yeah, really great characters. So I mean, I'm sure by next week I may or may not be done with it because I do want to kind of plow through it finally.
Right.
I've heard the fourth and fifth season are especially good, so
Yeah,
I'm excited to keep going with that. Uh, and then going back to Devs, we had talked about in previous episodes. I finally finished that. I had only had 2 episodes left, and I do think, even though I thought the show was mostly boring, uh,
yeah.
like I'm still very mixed on it, but I do think that it wraps up well. Like the last 2 episodes were good and interesting, and so like I did like where it went, but overall,
That's the end of the season, like right now.
yeah. And I don't even know if they're. I'm hoping that they're not gonna go further than that. Uh,
Oh, so it does wrap up.
I feel like it's a sufficient enough ending. So I
Interesting.
hope they don't continue. And I guess
Yeah,
my opinion on that, why I don't want them to, I don't want Alex Garland to get caught up in TV. Like I rather him do film. Uh, Same thing with Fincher, like David Fincher. I mean, I think he's coming out with a Netflix movie this year, but he got wrapped up like in Mindhunter, that Netflix show about serial killers and stuff like that. So it's like
yeah.
I would prefer him to be making movies as
Well,
opposed to TV shows.
I always feel like they get into this sort of thing just to start it off, and then they hand it
Mhm.
off to somebody else. Like Ryan Murphy is
Like
very
J.J.
popular.
Abrams.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, even then, I don't even know how much he actually has influence in terms of this. Like Alex Garland is very much meticulous on the stuff that he actually produces.
Mhm.
I think Michel Gondry is another one of my favorite directors who does. We talked about Kidding, which is a
Yeah.
Showtime film with Jim Carrey. He just kind of helped start the look of it and did the first the what do you call it, the pilot episode and a couple
Yeah.
other ones. But other than that, he kind of backed away from it. It's not
Mhm.
he didn't really come up with the show, but he's the one who
Uh-huh.
kind of set the mood and the style for it. So I feel like I'm not saying in particular for devs, but
Yeah.
somebody could come along and be like, all right, now you know what the show is like. Take it, go
For
ahead,
sure.
and then you just move back to production or as a producer, executive
Yeah,
producer.
yeah, because he did like write and direct every episode.
Yeah, exactly.
Which it's good. I mean, I like his other stuff that he's made more. Like I feel like devs. I feel like the show thinks it's a lot more, and not that I'm an intellectual, but it thinks it's a lot more intellectual than it actually is. So I don't think like the ideas there.
That's all his movies.
It's like you don't have as much to chew on. Like I think Ex Machina is very intellectual and interesting.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
And devs doesn't fully get there. But still, like if you're interested in his work, it is very Ex Machina-esque. It is a bit of Annihilation thrown in there too, so it's kind of a mixture of those things.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then what I was really excited about, which I haven't, there's a show on Apple Plus called Little America that I started watching. So I watched the first 3 episodes. So it's basically anthology show, kind of like Easy, which we've talked about on here before, where like each episode is a standalone story, and each episode is based on a real person. It is slightly fictionalized, but it's usually stories about immigrants or people like minorities living in America, the American dream, and then kind of like just different stories in that aspect. So like I love
Yeah.
it. Like every intro of the episode, they use like a different style of music that corresponds to, like the region or the country that would be
They're
about.
from. Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's like the first three. The first one was like about an Indian kid, and the second one was a Mexican girl, and the third one was a guy from Nigeria. So it's like it's a really sappy show, but it's really effective. Like it got me emotional, like really emotional watching it. So I'm like, I think I talked about Apple Plus prior to this because I talked about Defending Jacob, that Chris Evans show.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I did finally sign up because I do want to finish the show and I want to watch The Servant and the Beastie Boys doc. So I have a month now to watch all that stuff on Apple Plus.
Cool.
And then just two more things. I started watching Midnight Gospel, which is an animated show on Netflix. Pendleton Ward, I think, is the guy's name. It's the guy who did Adventure Time. So it's really up my alley. I typically don't like animation, but it deals with there's a podcast called the Duncan Trussell Family Hour. I guess that's been going on for a long time. And so it takes snippets of particular episodes and infuses them with animation. So there's usually like
oh, okay.
It's like weird because there's like zany crazy shit. If you've seen Adventure Time, you know how like wacky that is and like stoner it is. So it's that mixed with like these conversations that he's having. So it's like deep, like philosophical conversation. So the show is hard to pay attention to the dialogue and at the same time pay attention to what's happening as far as the animation, which I guess could be a knock against the show, but I think that just means you probably need to rewatch it, like rewatch episodes over it, which is easy. It's like they're like 25-minute episodes. Yeah. And then I really like the guy's voice, Duncan Trussell's voice, it's his podcast. And so I'm going on my way to make sure I download those particular episodes.
Check it out.
So I can listen to the podcast on its own and then watch the show as well. So it's really cool. Animation's great. It's really funny. And the conversations are like fucking deep conversations. So, and obviously whatever's happening in animation is it like correlates to what the conversation is about as well. So
that's cool. I'll check it out.
Yeah. And then the last thing is Dirt Bike Kid. It's a movie with the kid from Christmas Story, Ralphie.
I forgot his name.
I don't know his name either.
Michael? I don't know. I mean,
wasn't he in Knocked Up or something? One of those shows?
Yeah.
One of those movies?
He's become a director. He's also been in films.
Mm-hmm.
Billingsley. His last name is Billingsley. I can't remember his first name though. Yeah, I mean he did another movie like Couples Retreat that we were just talking about. He directed that one.
Oh wow, that's the universe, bud. That's what we were talking about before. But yeah, it's just like a campy movie about a kid who gets a dirt bike that has a mind of its own.
That sounds awesome.
I thought it was going to be more like it is a kids movie, so it's like it's not like Christine or something like that, where like the fucking car starts killing people. And I thought that's what it was going to be, like a mixture of like a kid's film and like this violent, campy horror movie. But it's not that at all. It's just kind of like in the vein of E.T. or something.
Okay. Cool.
But it's really good.
Where did you see it?
It's on Tubi, which is free. Tubi. I mean, it is ad supported, so you got to watch commercials, but it's free if you want to check it out. It's really corny, but pretty funny. So that's all I got for what I watched.
Cool. In terms of me, I guess I'm making an effort to see new stuff. Like I said, we did an episode where we rewatch a lot of the same stuff, and I'm a victim of that. Like I watch a lot of the same things over and over again. Most of the time it's because I'm doing something else, and a lot of times it's just like I don't want to see anything new. I just want to watch my favorite stuff. It's like kind of eating cookies and stuff. It's like comfort food. But now that I'm making an effort to do that, this isn't new, but I watched this series a long time ago. It's called Eureka. I don't know if you ever heard of it. It's an old sci-fi show.
I've heard of it. Yeah.
Yeah. I watched it after it had already aired. And this is like way back early 2000s. And immediately I think, and I know why, that's why it's on Prime, Amazon Prime. I think the reason they put it back to the front is because, and this is my immediate thought process was, this is like Eureka is the original Tales from the Loop. Because it's about the small town and it's a bunch about smart people working on weird stuff, like very science stuff. But it's very sappy and like horny, comedy stuff. But it's smart and it's a funny show. I love the lead. It's like the everyman lead who he's not smart. He's just a cop, and it's his cop smarts that kind of helps him solve. It's still a cop procedural, like figuring out what happened, but it's like him. He's the butt of the joke in the sense that he just not smart, but he's smart enough to figure out what's how the crime is committed. Whereas everyone is so smart, like oh you don't know that this is a solar power generated by plastic, blah blah blah. And he's like, no, but did you check this? And they're like,
so he's more like street smart than book smart or whatnot. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a very funny show, and I just decided to rewatch it again because I missed it. It's like goes back to the heyday of sci-fi, like when they had all these like really cool shows. I mean, I'm sure they still do. I don't have cable, so I don't know what's been aired there, but it's another one of those comfort shows. It was really cool. So I'm not done watching the entire series again. I just watch it when I'm just chilling, and I don't have enough time to sit down and watch a movie, but it's like again, a 25-minute episode or something.
How long did that show go for? How many seasons?
I think it's around. I'm on the 3rd season, so it might have been like 5 seasons. I remember looking it up again. Like they never wrapped it up entirely because they were supposed to do a final season, right? Like to wrap it up. Yeah. And then they said no. Like this is it. Like so it never ended. And then they said, okay, you know what? We'll just do one more episode. And then it's like, what the fuck? So it sucks that they didn't really get to it. But they were saying like the show was getting more expensive to make because of all the effects. It's not like crazy effects, but I mean, this is by the standards of early 2000s. Yeah. So, but that was good. The other thing is I watched again. I watched a lot of old movies recently because I never watched them. It's The Runaways, which is like basically like the biopic for the famous rock band, the all-female rock band, which was with.
I've seen that. Kristen Stewart
and Dakota
Fanning. Yeah, I saw that.
It was all right.
Cool. That's what I recall as well.
I was just curious to see because I know people used to talk about like this is a really good portrayal of them, or like the actors were really good. Watching, I was like, that's interesting. I mean, nothing to be like, oh yeah, it's a great doc, So whatever. The other thing I watched too recently, 2 other movies that I watched: Hotel Mumbai, which is based off of a true event where there was like a jihad kind of terrorist takeover in India, where like these terrorist groups went into different parts just to cause mayhem, and they ended up like doing it at the last place, which is like this massive hotel, the Taj Hotel, which is like a very old and famous hotel. And they, it stars Armie Hammer, Dev Patel, Jason Isaac is also Isaacs is also in it, and it's just basically how they survived that whole catastrophe or like that. That's not a disaster. It's like a horrible event, right? It's a terrorist. Sort of thing. So it's intense, and it's pretty nuts. But I like at the end that they show them like being rescued, and also how like I think they said within 20 months of that event happening, the hotel was restored back to its former glory, and like survivors from all over the world came back to like help them reopen it again.
That's awesome.
I like that sort of thing. It's like like in the face of that, we're not going to be back down. We're still going to reopen and do that. So, but it's a very heavy film because it's like. They just fucking walk in there and just start shooting people. Like they went into cafes and shooting people, and it was nuts. It was heavy. I was interested to see it just because I wanted to know what it was about. The other thing was I had heard about this documentary, and I don't know why I shun away from documentaries because documentaries are good. You learn. Yeah. And I used to love watching them again. And I'm gonna go into right now why I started seeing this and the last one, Hotel Mumbai. It's called All Things Must Pass, which is a documentary on Tower Records. And I remember going to Tower Records a lot. Now being out here, I go to Amoeba. Amoeba's like amazing, and but it's cool. It was like talking about how it started out very old. I didn't realize it was from like the 1960s. And I did some research. Amoeba didn't even start up until like 1990s. So like Tower Records was around for a long time, and basically just like the culture that was there, which I feel like is carried over into like what Amoeba is now, but. Just how obviously the rise and the downfall of it, and surprisingly, I didn't realize this, or I didn't really put 2 and 2 together. Like they don't exist in the States anymore, and that's like they went bankrupt them for a long time ago, but it still exists in Japan. Like it's still pretty big in Japan. Like there's shops out there, so it's pretty cool. But yeah, I mean, after watching that, I was like, oh man, like like documentaries are cool. I don't know why I don't watch more of these, because even if I can't decide what I want to watch in terms of a fictional film, I could always just pick a documentary and learn something. And the one thing is that I've started using this app. Again, I've had it for a couple of years now. I don't know if it's available where you're at. It's called Canopy, and it's an all-free app You know, you could sign up with it by using your library card. And it's like the reason why I love Canopy so much is because you pretty much have the entire Criterion collection on there. It's like everything that the libraries would have is there. And it just reminded me like early 20s when I was getting out of college and I would see a lot of foreign films. I used to be a big fan of French films, French cinema, and they have all of it there. They have like a ton of foreign films, all kinds of stuff. The last film that I watched last night that I just finished this morning, it's called Le Weekend. It's French, but it's not a French movie. It stars Jim Broadbent, Lindsay Duncan, and Jeff Goldblum. Jeff Goldblum was in it, so I was like, I got to see it. He's barely in it. But it's just about an old couple who are like kind of like on the outs, but they still reconnect by going to Paris just to hang out. But it's a really good app to see a lot of old, and they don't have just old films. They have all kinds of stuff.
So you could just like stream stuff through it? Or?
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think I've heard of it. I think I've heard a podcast, commercial for it or whatnot.
Yeah. I mean, they have a ton of documentaries. They have a ton of like, I mean, like other places like, like Crackle, Crackle is also a free one, but they don't really have a huge selection. It's a lot of the same shit. This Canopy has an amazing selection of like incredible films. Like, and I think that's my goal now is just like spend more time on this app and just watch those things. So I think like moving forward, when we do these things too, I want to make an effort to talk about or bring forth like a window to films that nobody really gets to see. Like, they don't have full releases in the theaters or anything like that. We could talk about like Sonic the Hedgehog and stuff like that, but everyone's talking about those movies.
For sure, yeah.
But I want to talk about these other movies that, that are really good. So
yeah, I mean, I need to start making it a point to do that too, because like I know we had talked about theaters and stuff on that like COVID versus the movie industry or whatnot. Yeah. But Music Box out here, which is like the big independent theater in Chicago, they have a virtual theater, so like stuff is still coming out there. So just like these movies that are coming for video on demand. Yeah. And I believe I was listening to a podcast on the Ringer Network. It was PVOD is what they call it. So it's premium video on demand. Because it's a premium price, obviously. But no, like for Music Box, they have this virtual theater and you could rent films, but usually they're like range between like $10 to $20. It's like I want to make it a point to like get a list of movies that I want to watch that are like not mainstream. Yeah. And get around to those, because like as much as I'm excited to finally like be getting around to all these TV shows that I've been putting off for so long, I do want to watch more movies because I haven't been lately. So yeah, I
want to suggest the podcast to you. I'm like I don't listen to it because I don't listen to anything. I do want to start listening to it. It's called Pure Cinema Podcast. I don't know if you.
I've heard episodes, but I unsubscribed. I don't know why I did. Like, there's a horror podcast that I listen to, and the same guy, Elric Kane. He started the Pure Cinema, but I just haven't listened.
And mainly, I'm saying it because they deal with a lot of like the stuff that happens out here, like with the New Beverly. For sure. One of my friends who's a curator and does the social media for the New Beverly. He's also on there a couple times. So, and obviously, like recently, because of the quarantine stuff, they've actually had Quentin Tarantino a few times to talk about different things, which I think.
Yeah, I think I've listened to that episode because he did the programming there. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I listen to Shockwaves, which is their horror podcast, but it's the same guy on there. And I know they did Flashback Video, which you went to because it was in LA, which I'm jealous of that. But they did like that video store pop up.
All right.
It was pretty cool.
Yeah, for sure. That's it for me. And before we wrap it up, I just want to add in some music stuff. Have you listened? I mean, I know you mentioned to me that you've been listening to new stuff. I've been listening to music. I don't think I'm going to be doing this every week because most of the time I listen to the same stuff every week. I have been listening to a lot of like, because of the way that the weather's been changing and stuff like that. I was listening again to some Exotica music. Exotica is just very kind of like loungy stuff. So it's like old classic stuff like Martin Denny. There's this other guy that I really like called Monster Rally. He was originally from out here, or I don't know where he's from, but now he lives out in the East Coast. Which is like perfect for me because I'm hip tiki. I'm like about all the hip stuff right now mixed in with classic tiki stuff. And he does that. He mixes old school beats of Exotica mixed in with like the more newer samples of beats and stuff. And it's like the type of music for me to listen to. And of course, Gorillaz. I went back to listen to Gorillaz and El Guincho, which is another guy who makes a lot of crazy repetitive beats that I sometimes feature when I'm doing my little dance videos on Instagram. But it's pretty
Yeah, I haven't really. No, I don't really have much to say here, just as I haven't made a point. Like, I mean, every Friday, because I do have Spotify. Every Friday, I'll like go into the new releases and see stuff that like piques my interest and add it.
Yeah,
Which I, I had Apple Music prior to this, just because they had a 3-month trial, and I wanted to check it out. And I do like Apple Music quite a bit. Uh, I just wanted Spotify because that just seems like what most people use, and I love their end of year stuff. I understand Apple Music does their own like end of year shit.
I don't know.
What's cool is like they'll like it keeps track of how much you listen to something, so it'll tell you like your top 5 or like your top 10 songs that you listen to the most. And I know both of those services do it, but Spotify is weird as far as like if I go into the new releases and add that album and download it. And maybe it's just me not knowing how to navigate the app or whatnot. But like if I go into my artists or to my albums, like it's not there, or like it's
Yeah,
not under artists. It's like, why is like I downloaded this? This should all be aggregated in this one section of the app, and it's not.
yeah,
So I literally will have to go back to new releases to find out what I added.
that's weird.
But I haven't listened to much. I did listen. Oh no! So one of my favorite bands back in the day, Phantom Planet.
Yeah, I think that's
They
my
did the
podcast.
California song from the OC. I've always liked them, and they basically broke up or went on a hiatus years ago, and they finally got back together like a year or two ago. So they released like a 4-track. It's not an EP, but there's 4 new songs they have available, and then their album comes out in June.
Cool.
Uh, I listened to that, and it's really good. It's really good. I've liked all 4 songs. And then the Scots, I listen. That's just literally a single song, so I can't really give myself credit
Uh,
for listening to one song. But the Scots, which is Travis Scott and Scott Mescudi, which is Kid Cudi, they came out with a song. So I think they're going to be doing an album, a collaboration together, just like Kid Cudi did a collaboration with Kanye 2 years ago, Kids See Ghost, which that's one of my favorite albums ever. It's more of an EP because it's only like 6 tracks, 6 or 7 songs. Uh, but yeah, that song's pretty good. And do I know the name of it off the top of my head? No, I do not. But
but
it's
look
a good
for it.
song, and like
Yeah.
I do really like Travis Scott. I really like his last album, Astro World. So I'm excited because I'm a
Is
huge
this the
Kid Cudi
guy?
fan.
Is
What
it the
happened?
guy who had a concert in Fortnite?
Yeah, he had a concert in Fortnite. He has his
That's
own
just
like Astro
ridiculous to
World
me.
festival.
Yeah, that's nuts.
He had a huge song. I don't know why I'm
I don't know.
freezing up here, but he had a huge song with Drake. That was
But
probably like the song of the year.
but before we go any further, because we're gonna get cut off soon from Instagram.
Sicko Mode.
And
Let me just get the song. Sicko
was
Mode.
it
Yeah,
Sicko Mode?
it's a
Okay.
fucking awesome song. It's a great album. It's a great album. But yeah.
But you mentioned Spotify. Don't forget, for you guys who are watching on Instagram Live, we are on Spotify. You can listen to our podcast regularly there. We're also on
Okay.
iTunes and Stitcher. And yeah, don't forget to follow us here on Oh My Wad. Also, if you guys have any complaints, comments, I always say complaints. I don't know why I say complaints. Don't complain. I don't give
You
a
do
shit. If you
gravitate
complain.
to
Don't watch it.
first.
Yeah.
Stop being so
Um,
negative, Abaddon.
Yeah, let us know what you think of the podcast. We also have an email account. It's called ohmywad@gmail.com, or even
Yeah.
send us a direct message through the Instagram as well. You can
Uh-huh.
follow hip_arcade for us. This is what's being produced by Hip Arcade, where I produce a lot of the apparel and all kinds of pop culture related stuff. Check it out. We do a lot of cool video game related movie stuff and tiki stuff. So Hip Tiki is also part of Hip Arcade.
Mhm.
And yeah, where can they find you, Jason, as always?
You can follow me on Boy Decide. It's more of a personal account, but if you want to see like my photos or like I said, pictures of my daughter Evie or the stuff I watch, 'cause
Chicago
usually
Life.
like
Chicago Life.
yeah, usually when I like watch a few movies, once I have like a few gathered up, I log them on Letterboxd. If you guys don't know what Letterboxd is, you should check it out. Letterboxd without the E. So yeah, it's a great app if you want to track what you watch and your rating. You can rate films. You can make lists of your favorite films or watch lists and stuff like that. But whenever I have watched a handful of films, I'll post screenshots of like my ratings. But they just have the feature now that you could post each rating as an Instagram story, which I love because I could just share it that way instead.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, if you're interested in that stuff, Boy Decide.
And And I'm of course Avidon_arcade for my personal one where I just do crazy shit and post art and stuff that like whatever my concepts are before I go into Hippity and Hip Arcade. So thanks again for watching. As always, well, keep watching, keep playing, and keep doing what you do. Just do more of it.
Bye guys.